I don't think you're probably born that way.
I think that it's not really a choice. I think there is a biological component to their sexuality.
My own personal belief is that homosexuality is a sin.
I think that if the person feels that if they want to do that, then that's just fine.
You're not really born with it. I think it's just a sinful way, kind of a sinful nature that you attain.
No, I think they're born that way, and they discover that as they become older, just like regular people discover themselves.
I believe I was born gay, and I believe that anyone who even struggled with the idea that they might be gay, I believe they were just in the process of coming to terms with their inborn homosexuality.
Well, I believe that homosexuality is not something that you're born with. It's a choice that you make.
No, I don't believe so. I think they're born one way and stay that way. I mean, if you're homosexual, you're homosexual. I don't think that you can change that one way or the other.
I think if you're born that way, I don't think you can make a heterosexual gay, so I don't think you can make a homosexual straight.
They just might have these feelings ever since they were little kids. Who's really to say? I'm not an expert on it. I'm not a doctor, but that's just my opinion.
To limit your choices to a gay identity is what will certainly, keep you from finding other sides of yourself.
I believe people can change sexual orientation because I know personally people that have done so.
I discovered that I had heterosexual feelings. Sounds kind of shocking from somebody who was so devout in their beliefs of homosexuality being such a true part of them. Can I tell you how I discovered my heterosexuality?
Is sexual preference a matter of inheritance? Are we born to become gay or straight? Or does our environment play a role in shaping our sexual feelings? These questions cut to the core of human experience. Such questions are not simply academic matters. Some of the most difficult and controversial issues facing our culture involve changing beliefs and feelings about sexuality. No topic is more controversial and thought-provoking. Specifically, in modern times, our views of homosexuality are relevant to nearly all areas of life, from religion to public policy on marriage.
As Ohioans, in the state of Ohio, we're not going to recognize marriages or any other legal definitions that would constitute the benefits of a marriage for same-sex couples.
Like many citizens, some policymakers view homosexual feelings as an inborn, perhaps even God-given, aspect of humanity, requiring changes in public policy to be fair.
Frankly, from a personal point of view, my reading of my own Bible and my understanding of what God wants us to do, and God recognizing all people, this is just antithetical to that as far as I'm concerned.
Also, adopting the point of view that sexual feelings are inborn and fixed, most professional mental health associations have discouraged people with homosexual feelings from attempting to change those feelings. And yet there are some people that believe they have changed from gay to straight. They believe change results from factors such as religious belief and counseling assistance.
I had entered seminary, and it was my first year of seminary, and it was the second year of this relationship towards the end of it. And I was very depressed and very devastated, and I ended up finally confessing to a friend where I was at and what I was doing and how long this has been going on. It's been 10 years and of actually acting on things. And she was a fellow believer, and I told her when we were in the car, and she just stopped in the middle of the highway and looked at me and said, "This is not who you are." And all I could think was, but it feels like it is. This feels like it's who I am. And but I knew that statement was very pivotal for me, because I knew if change was going to happen, that I had to believe that it wasn't who I was.
I had been lesbian for 10 years, ages 13 to 23. And of course I didn't want to talk about that. I married Ron and had definitely changed.
But is change in sexual feelings really possible? Many mental health organizations say that sexual orientation is an inborn trait, like height or eye color, and therefore unlikely to change. However, a growing number of counselors and researchers are listening to people who say they have changed and are now rethinking the causes of sexual orientation.
My take on it is that it's a combination of both nature and nurture that contributes to sexual orientation. Certainly throughout the 1990s and even into this century, we've seen a push to establish a biological basis for sexual orientation. And in a sense, by doing that, we've neglected any of the environment and those kinds of factors in contributing to sexual orientation.
The idea that homosexuality is hardwired via one's genetic makeup is one of the more popular misconceptions about homosexuality. Let me quote from the American Psychiatric Association's fact sheet on sexual orientation. Some people believe that sexual orientation is innate and fixed. However, sexual orientation develops across a person's lifetime. To date, there are no replicated scientific studies supporting any specific biological etiology, meaning cause, for homosexuality. Similarly, no specific psychosocial or life circumstances or family dynamic cause for homosexuality has been identified. Thus, the cause of homosexuality is something of a scientific mystery. However, the conventional wisdom that people are born gay is just not consistent with the research we have. What is more likely the case is that homosexual attractions are caused by different factors for different people. We have known for a long time that sexual feelings and behavior are highly responsive to environmental circumstances. Given the incredible variability of sexual customs and expressions the world over, it seems very likely that the object of one's sexual attractions are quite responsive to one's upbringing, one's sexual education and experience, one's values and beliefs, and the culture one grows up in.
A very significant change was understanding the factors or the environmental factors that did shape me, that are significant to why I made the choices I did.
Well, in this book, following that, they started describing, and it's funny because there was chapters about heterosexuality, and then there was like a small paragraph following that, and that paragraph said, you know, once in a while there's someone who doesn't have that feeling of being attracted to the opposite sex, but instead has a feeling of being attracted to the same sex, and that's known as homosexuality. That was in the book. That was the first time, and I can remember it just like it just happened, you know, yesterday, seeing that word and thinking that that was me. It was kind of by process of elimination. You don't fit in here. You don't fit in here. You must fit in here. This must be it. And then the book ends. And it's not like there were any other options in the book. I couldn't turn to another chapter and say, oh, there's another option. No. You choose within the options given you, and here they are. And so, at least that's how I saw it. I think for me, books were a huge authority. And I thought, these people know everything. And so I looked and I said, okay, no, okay, this is me.
If sexual attractions are not genetically determined, then how do they develop? According to psychologist Mark Yarhouse of Regent University, there are events that often go along with the development of same-sex feelings.
And typically, that begins with early awareness, around age 10 or so, of feeling different than other people, of this sense of confusion about that, or it's a dilemma. Here I am experiencing same-sex attractions in a society that is predominantly heterosexual. And then they go into an experience of same-sex behavior early on, tends to be around age 13 or so on average. and then into an experience of labeling that behavior and that sense of confusion as an identity privately to themselves. I must be gay, or I must be lesbian. And then the next stage would be, or milestone event would be, disclosure to someone else. And typically that happens within one's peer group, finding a safe group of others to disclose one's experiences of attraction, and then perhaps to one's siblings, and eventually to one's parents.
But I was definitely different from my peers. I was very opposite of that as a child. I was very hyper, very loud, very into sports, loved being outside, played with action figures, didn't fit in the stereotype. And I knew that at a young age as well, that I was different from the other girls. But I knew the feelings I had were different from my other friends that I had that were females. It wasn't until the age 7, though, that I began a fantasy life of kind of entertaining those crushes that I had on women. And it was more fantasizing, wanting attention and the maternal care that women gave. I was very drawn to that. And I think age 10 is when I began sexualizing them. And as soon as I did that, I realized what I was doing and realized that those were homosexual fantasies and crushes I had since I was little. And I felt very overwhelmed by that, but also very trapped.
I remember asking Dad, he was about ready to throw one of his fits, which he would always go into fits of rage. I remember asking him, I said, "You hate me, don't you?" And he came back, he said, "Yes, taking the Lord's name in vain, I hate you," and laughed. And that wasn't necessarily a kick. He was like, "Yeah, I knew that. I already knew that." So I grew up, having thought that already, and then at age 10, I was introduced to sex by a boy across the street. And even though I knew it was wrong, but at the same time, it was good to have positive male affection. Somebody wanted me for me.
And the ones that were really popular were the, football team, basketball team, and they just had these strengths that they were other to me. They were different. And so I developed this curiosity, and I thought, wow, what's all that about? And the more I thought about it, the more different I felt. And when puberty came along and bodies started changing, I really noticed other men